So the vogue very much seems to be at the moment of doing videos about collections. Now I've done a couple of my own, which you can see here on the channel. Oh, by the way, if you're coming across us for the first time, hi, I'm Retro Bear, and this is my little corner of the Intertube, where I post various videos about games I've played, games I've picked up, games I own. Nothing any different from what other people do. It's just me talking about stuff I like to do. So if you've come across us the first time, stick around, check out some of the stuff on there. If you are a returning visitor, hello, nice to see you again, thanks for coming back. Yes, so where we were talking about collections, we've done a couple of videos on this channel, one which is my Amiga games collection, which for me has got quite a lot of number of viewers, which is absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much for tuning in and looking at those. Also my sort of what can only be described as sort of the Lawrence of Arabia of collection videos, all about my Commodore 64 tapes and games being sort of put away into a different storage system. It's all been done now, probably like 9 videos altogether on that, and I didn't actually do all the stuff I wanted to do with that one. There was still some bits and pieces I didn't do. We didn't do the cover tapes and the loose tapes, but that was long enough as it was. There is a director's cut available, which is about another 3 hours long. I'm only joking. So in view of that, and in view of what other people are doing quite a lot at the moment, is sort of showing off their collections. I've always been a bit wary about doing that, because pick up videos are one thing, because people do like to see what you picked up, but then if you go around sort of showing your collection off, then it's sort of, you know, a bit sort of you know, look at me sort of thing. And to be honest with you, with my collections, I've got a lot of everything, but not a lot of one. But bear in mind that big pile behind me there, that's probably the biggest collection of games I've got for one particular system. Well, it is. It's actually, PlayStation 2's not far behind it. You can't quite see PlayStation 2. That's there. That's not far behind it at the moment. But this particular system I'm going to show you today, small number of games, and it's, you know, you're not going to see anything, you know, super mega rare or anything like that. You know, although we've all seen those things on eBay and what have you. But you're going to see my collection of games, which I'm quite happy to have. Some of it's in boxes, some of it isn't. Doesn't really make a lot of difference to me. If I have a game that is good and I want to play it, or a game I want to try and play it, as far as I'm concerned, that's it. Anyway, so today we are going to be talking about our little friend, the humble Nintendo 64. You can see there in all its grey glory. Now, I have 3 of these. Why have I got 3 of these? Well, one of them might break. Always best to, especially when I was buying these a number of years ago. Not a huge amount of years ago, I would certainly say within the last sort of 10 years. And they weren't going, shall we say, ridiculously stupid prices, but they were cheap enough for me to pick up a couple and keep them there. Mother, I can't quite understand why I need at least 3 of these, but as I said, if this one breaks, where am I going to get another one for now? And I certainly wouldn't be able to get one for the price I paid for these. Now, I've probably paid, I think at the time, for this £10 with a game and a controller. I know I bought one as part of a lot of something else, and I think one came with a lot of something else as well, which I purchased. So they've always been in around. They're all the same colour. We can get these in. You can get these in different colours. My friend over in America on Think Retro, he's got a gold one, which is in the background of some of his videos, which looks absolutely sensational. I'm not really bothered about the colour. I don't think I've ever had the opportunity. If you've ever sort of had the chance to see the Pokemon Special Edition, I walked past one of those because it was stupidly priced. I've also walked past box versions of this, which are also stupidly priced. And this was back in the day when things were cheap. A little bit about this. I mean, it's a fairly straightforward. We've got a cartridge slot at the top there. In here is the expansion pack, which will enable you to play enhanced versions of the game. Some of those I've actually got. I've also been very lucky that all 3 of the N64s I've purchased have actually got this inside. So the cartridge goes in there. It's that's the reset button. That's the on-off switch. Underneath there is an extension port. I'm not sure what that was. It's only a bit. Nothing important's broken. Don't worry. I'm not quite sure what that was used for. Evidently there may have been some idea to connect that to something. This, for those of you particularly interested in the serial number, this is the NUP15042135, model number NUS-001 Europe. So I'm not sure what that means. And then at the back here, you've got the main power pack controller, so that's sort of plugged into the back of there. There's also a multi-out socket there as well. People modify these all the time for SCART and HDMI, and I seriously can't be bothered. Yes, I mean, actually, in terms of an example, it's not bad. You've got 4 controllers on the front there. This was quite new, because I think at this point in time, PlayStation would have had an extension. I've got it somewhere. It's in my peripheral box, which is in a different room. But literally a 4 sort of way tap. So you plug more than two in the front. I'm just sort of looking around, and you may have been able to get adapters, but I think this was probably the first console with actually the facility to plug in 4 controllers at once. Yeah, so yeah, nice little thing. I think it looks alright actually. I mean, in terms of some consoles, it's not as nice as the Mega Drive. It's a lot better looking, I think, than the NES. Is it better than the Super Nintendo? No, I think it's probably not quite as nice as that one. Yeah, so not a bad little machine. Lots of little control. Those using controllers before, which I haven't. Oh, I have got a controller down. Hang on. There we go. Controller, which goes with that. So this was also the first sort of revolutionary controller. Up until that, most sort of joypads have been sort of like that, basically the same sort of colour, and haven't got this sort of bit hanging around here. PlayStation, of course, had the analog controller, which of course is what that stick is there. There's also a directional pad, 6 buttons there, there's a start button there, and a couple of shoulder buttons as well. And there's also a facility at the back to plug in a rumble pack, so you can get vibration off it, because don't forget PlayStation was doing vibration through the DualShock controller. And there's also another switch behind there, so lots of switches on that. And I think this is probably where my love of joypads started to sort of go, because there was far too much going on. I certainly couldn't get used to using the analog stick, but that's because unless it's got a simple instruction of walk left, walk right, jump, duck, fire, I'm struggling. You see me play Call of Duty. No, you shouldn't actually. It's not a particularly pleasurable experience. So, like I said, I've got 3 of those knocking around the place, all the same colour. And my introduction to the N64 was with my friends who had one, and we were playing sort of things like Goldeneye, Mario Kart, you know, basically multiplayer games like that. And that was a sort of thing which we sort of grew up with, sort of 1996, 97 onwards. I've been in my 20s by then. You have no idea of how old I am now. And I've always loved it. It's always been I've much preferred it to the NES. It's probably about the same level as the Super Nintendo. But yeah, it's always been a console that I've really sort of enjoyed playing on. There's been good games for it. I've got some of those. Unlike anybody who watched my pickup videos, I do actually have some good games in my collection. You might be very surprised to see that. So let's run through what I've got. And if I can tell you anything about them, I will try and do so. These are the box games I've got. So 8, I think. No, 8 or 9. We'll count them as we go through, shall we? So first up is Shadow Man. And as you can see, this is also designed for the Rumble Pack and the expansion pack, so this is a graphically enhanced game. This is, I'll just try and show you the inside of that complete. So there is the instruction manual, the original cardboard inserts, and of course the cartridge in there. This is not going to be like the Amiga video where I find there's a different game in there. And I think this one came in, I didn't buy this outright. I think this may have come in when somebody I knew was sort of shifting a load of stuff for a friend of his, and he said I could have a box of stuff for about 50 quid, I think it was. And there were all sorts in there. Dreamcast, bits and pieces like that. There was, as I say, the N64 number of controllers, all sorts of bits and pieces. So there's one. This is Formula 1 Grand Prix, which is a game, as far as I remember from last time, collecting that CEX won't buy off you because there are so many copies of it. if you can find a copy of this as in a boxed version, you probably get it for a couple of quid. So if you want like a decent looking game to sit on your shelf, and it's not a bad game actually. It's pretty good fun in terms of the graphics, and if it's around about 1996-97, so this would have been probably after the PlayStation Formula 1 game with Murray Walker doing the commentary on it. Again, this is nicely done, and yep, I've got it with the wrong end of the box there. I hate it when it happens. Or have I don't know. Anyway, it's in there, manual. You can just see the cartridge lurking in there around the corner. Yeah, not a bad little game that, but obviously just so many copies of it knocking around. You will not be able to find it will not be hard to find a box copy like this in a really good condition for, you know, practically nothing. And I think, you know, box games don't have to be expensive if you're not particularly a mass-produced title or a title which is, you know, not very well known. It's very easy to find them. I think this is probably the best game I've got actually in terms of box condition wise. This is Perfect Dark, which again, as you also notice, has got the Rumble pack and also the expansion pack on there, and you can play 4 players on it as well, so this is all very important. I bought this off eBay, complete blind auction many years ago, where I thought I was just buying a loose copy. They have no photographs or anything like that, but it was actually dirt cheap, and when it came it was actually in this condition, and I think I paid a stupid price for it. I think I paid less than a fiver for it. I really did. There's absolutely nothing to it. It was absolutely atrocious. Manual's a bit tatty, but the box is in really good nick on the inside, and the box on the outside is in really good nick as well, so absolutely thrilled to get that for such a price. If you've not played it at all, some of you may have played the Xbox 360 update, which I have a steel version copy of. Again, you can pick that up for peanuts as well, less than a couple of quid. I think I picked mine up for 50p. I think you maybe get it for £1 now. This one now, I think at the moment is going to set you back quite a little bit, but it's sort of like sort of a Goldeneye X-Files crossover. I think some people best described it as. It's a really good game to play actually. It's one of those you can just sort of lose hours and hours and hours on. Next up, which is my friend that UK game was watching, FIFA 64. There we go, in Lylat football games. Yeah, it's FIFA on the N64. What can I say? I've actually got yeah. So this would have been the first version for it, and there was a FIFA 98 as well. Oh, surprisingly enough, there was also a FIFA 98 Road to the World Cup, which some people regard as possibly the best FIFA game of all time. I'm not entirely sure about that one. Yeah, so it had a few good hours of fun on that one. So that isn't based on the World Cup; it's actually the Road to the World Cup. Picked from 272 nations to take your team all the way to France 98. I'm not sure whether you actually get a chance to play in France 98. I've never really sort of played it long enough. Expert commentary from John Watson, Andy Gray and Des Lynam. If I remember correctly, they sound really bored. I think that's probably why FIFA eventually moved on to Martin Tyler. I don't know. 1997-98 season lineups for all 172 national and 189 domestic squads. You can't say it's not in depth, but it's FIFA. So if you play one FIFA on the N64, you might have played them all. I don't know. Now you'll notice that some of these boxes are a bit squashed. That's because that's how they've arrived. Here's another one which is a bit squashed. Pilotwings 64. If anybody's played, I first played Pilotwings on the Super Nintendo, and I absolutely loved it. It was so different. It was, at the time, it was so. You'd had flight simulators before, but this was different. This was done from a completely different thing. Like you'd jump out of a plane, sort of what they call it, skydiving, and you had targets and things like that, and wind, hand gliding. It was completely different. It wasn't sensible. It wasn't for people who knew what specs of planes were, so they can get things out of it. You know, mugs like me who were probably playing Afterburner, not cared jack squat about that. We just wanted to play games like that. You know, I'm not going to sit here and have a giant flight stick joystick controller and whatever. This was completely different, and it was a lot of fun. This one, yeah, it's good fun. It's good fun. I will be honest with you. It's not a bad game. I don't know why they've never done any more of it. I don't know why there's never a Pilotwings for the Wii, which is really strange. It's one of those games which people remember the name of, but it could have been, I think, a bit more of a series. They really could have gone with that one. This is Premier Manager 64 with the legend Kevin Keegan on the front of it. If you ever played Premier Manager, it's actually got an expansion pack in it. I'm pretty honest, because there's a huge amount of data in there, and it's all complete in there. Then this uses the Actua Soccer engine. Anybody remembers Actua Soccer from the late 90s, which was a PlayStation 1 game originally? Because you had FIFA, you had Pro Evolution Soccer, and then there was Actua Soccer, which sort of like tried to take everything from a three-dimensional view. First game wasn't too bad, but those games really have aged awfully now. They really are horrible to look at. It's sort of like the, if you use an example of how not to do sort of those sort of games anymore, and how bad games with 3D polygon graphics have aged, that would one you'd sort of say straight away. People go, ooh, that looks horrible, and it does. I was never a big Actua Soccer fan, to be honest with you. It was either FIFA or Pro Evo for me, but that does use the Actua Soccer engine. So it's got the, you remember Premier Manager? That was on the ST and Amiga when it first came out. Again, that was sort of the rival to Championship Manager, and eventually it sort of lost its way. But they're still bringing out Premier Manager games. I've got Premier Manager 98 and 2000 on the PlayStation 1, so it was a series which ran for a good, I'd say, sort of 7 or 8 years before it eventually died out. And the last box game I've got is Hybrid Heaven, which I did pay $4.99 for from GameStation, because that's the only time I ever saw an N64 game boxed in a GameStation store, which doesn't exist anymore in my local town. Again, this was designed for all the expansion pack. This is, I understand it, because I've only played it briefly, but it's not my real sort of game. It's sort of like an RPG, mixed action adventure RPG. Some people think it's really good, some people think it's a bit average. Yeah, so I think it's my sort of game, really, but yeah, I was quite happy. I think that was probably the first game boxed N64 I actually got. All the other ones sort of came after that. So as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a collection of 8 box games. It's not going to set the world on fire, but I'm very proud of them. And yeah, I mean, some of the boxes are a bit squished, but I mean, they're all complete. They've all got the manuals, and they've all got the cardboard inside, and they've all got the cartridges. I don't think you can ask for any more than that. Anyway, there will be people out there who think they're in shocking condition, but there we go. The good news is, if they're in shocking condition, that was how I bought them, so I've looked after them. Yeah, yeah. Blame the people before who had them like that. They were like that when I got here. There we go. That's the phrase. Like that when I got here. So let's now move on to the loose cartridges, and we'll go through these one by one. We've done FIFA 64. We've done FIFA Road to the World Cup 98. Well, here is FIFA 98. It's a bit of a grubby old cartridge, this one. I'm going to give it a bit of a clean. It is quite a grubby old cartridge. It's FIFA on a cartridge. Alright, that's just an interesting one. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I've got a couple in here. This is Mace the Dark Age. But what you'll notice, and I'll just try and show you this. If I show you the game, I'm not going to show you until the next one. This is the back of a PAL cartridge, okay, and you can just see there. And if I show you this one, try and put them together. It tries to do hand-eye coordination. You can see that this one here has got some gaps at the bottom, okay, and this one here hasn't, because they're in a slightly different place, and that is because this one is an American cartridge, and as a result of that, I haven't been able to play it. And also, it's an American cartridge because it's got where are we? That finger, no, that finger, that finger, that finger. There we go, that finger. It's got the M for mature rating on it. I'll get it right one of these days. See, someone asked me about that. Well, why don't you edit your videos? And I thought, well, no, because I prefer to be completely unslick and natural. And if I'm making an arse of myself, then that's what it is anyway. So yeah, so I haven't been able to play that. So I can't tell you what it's like. Not all that good, from what I understand, but anyway. Now, prestige title, Donkey Kong 64. Interesting story about this, which I will come to at the end of this video, made to try and keep you all watching. It's not anyway, it's an interesting story. It's been one of those. It's a story about being in the right place at the right time. You may want to hang on till the end. I don't know. Star Wars: Shadow of the Empire. If you haven't played this, I would thoroughly recommend tracking down a copy purely for the first level alone, which is set on the snow speeder, sort of taking down the AT-ATs, because I think that was the first time somebody tried it on the home systems, and it was absolutely brilliant. And you can still play it now, and it's still really good fun. The rest of the game, it just feels like it's all been sort of tacked on for a Star Wars license. Again, you can pick it up for a few quid. It's not a particularly rare game, but yeah, it's good fun. But yeah, it does. I sort of played through it, and I sort of got a bit bored actually. After the first, oh, this is fantastic, and then you sort of get another American cartridge, which is Aero Fighters Assault. Again, I can't tell you what it's like because I haven't actually played it, but again, you can probably just make it out there. It's got a rating of KA, which I'm pretty sure stands for Kangaroo Attack, or Kids to Adults, as it says here. Yeah, so I haven't been able to play that one either, so I can't tell you about that one. But they came in a because I'll just try and show you an example of that. This is Shadows of the Empire, which we've just shown you. This is a Nintendo 64. Okay, cartridge in. Okay, PAL system, PAL cartridge. NTS cartridge, PAL Nintendo 64. Okay. Now I'm more interested because I picked up those two American cartridges in a lot with an N64. So how were they able to play them? Perhaps they lost the I don't know. Perhaps I'm using the wrong N64. Perhaps I picked this is the third N64 which doesn't go with that setup. Or it's 9 years ago. There we go. Lylat Wars, which I can tell you I paid £3 for at the time. This is the sequel to Star Wing on the Super Nintendo. I think this is a great game. I lost a lot of time playing this. I can't remember if I ever got through it all or not. I don't know. But it's just great fun. Just great fun. If you play Star Wing now on the Super Nintendo, it looks a bit sort of, you know, as you said before, looking at PlayStation games, it looks a bit sort of its era. This one is still a really good game, really good fun as well. And it's enhanced by the expansion pack as well. Worth getting. If you haven't got it, it's one of those games that's quite essential to get hold of. Oh yeah, really good fun, this one. Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. So this is to do with the podcast, the pod racing section of the first film, which is The Phantom Menace, which, if you remember, was released 20 years after the first Star Wars film as the first Star Wars film. I know it's called Episode 4 when it first came out, but it was the first Star Wars film. This is brilliant. This is really good fun, and it's amazingly quick. Quick racer, really easy to get into, and you can lose a lot of time on it. And it was so good they packed this in with versions of the game, not because George Lucas wanted any more money for, you know, Episode 1 tie-ins, because it was that good. They pack a game in like that. It's a free, you know, it's like Tetris. It's like Wii Sports. It's like Sonic with the Mega Drive. It's not like Altered Beast with the Mega Drive, but it's, yeah, to have that sort of free was really, really good. Also of that sort of generation, which was Wipeout 64, which of course was the game which sold a ton of PlayStation 1s when it first came out. This is really good fun as well. Similar sort of hardware, and really, again, quick and easy to get into, quick to play, banging soundtrack of its time. Absolutely essential to have. See, there's some good games here, isn't there? You're surprised? You thought it'd all be rubbish? Waverace 64, which again, another game which is real quality. it's just it's like jet bike racing, which I don't think there are many games based on that at all. It's got a lovely water effect. It's really simple to play. There was another game which came out on the GameCube called Waverace Blue Storm, which is equally as good, if not better than this. 2 games in that series on major consoles, and again, I think, having had a discussion about this with a friend of mine, you know, you'd have thought this is the sort of game they'll be putting on the Switch. It'll be ideal to go on the Switch. Take note. No one pays any attention to me. Taz Express, which features the Tasmanian Devil from the Warner Brothers cartoons. That's why it's called Taz Express and not just Express. Yeah, it's all right. It's not as bad as Tasmania, which came out on was it the Super Nintendo or this one, which was nothing to do with the Mega Drive game of the same name. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's more accurate in terms of the Taz character than anything else. Rayman 2: The Great Escape. I've never played many Rayman games. The only Rayman game that's ever caught my imagination was Rayman Origins on the Wii. One of the best looking games on that system. I didn't quite understand the character, but that game itself just sort of stands out. It's alright. Oh, a real favourite of mine, Star Wars Rogue Squadron. The first time I played this, I'll just see on the back there, $1.99 from Cash Converters. Oh, blimey, you never can get that for $1.99 nowadays. I first played that when I got it. I think I picked up a Car Boots. I don't pick up Car Boots. Cash Converters. I wanted that. Ah, dear. Picked this up at a Cash Converters, and I played it first of all on a 42-inch television, and I was absolutely amazed by it. 42-inch LCD, not old style, but just plugged it into a modern television and was sort of sat there just absolutely mesmerised by how much fun I was actually having with this game. Yeah, really good, really good. It's come from that Rogue sort of series of games, which sort of when we had a Rogue Leader and Rogue something else on PC, and then there was also the GameCube games as well. So it was a really good series, and again, it's a series that probably needs to sort of need a revisit. Yeah, get it if you can. If you can pick it up, get it. It's worthwhile. Absolutely worth it. Right, off camera and back onto camera with the last lot. And this is, there's only a small selection of games. So this is going to be the last one now, and that sort of bit here. So what else have we got? Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. I actually at one point owned 3 copies of this game, and I traded both of them, the other ones in, at CEX to use credit on sort of getting some Wii stuff a couple of years back. Yeah, it's not my sort of game. I've got to be honest with you. The cartridge is incredibly heavy because obviously there's a huge battery backup in it. Again, for those of you who are new to sort of old games, cartridges back in the day had sort of a battery system inside them where you could save the game if you were lucky, and your cartridge was able to do that. Some games didn't. If I get showing you a Super Nintendo Collection, you'll see what I mean about that. I'll talk about one game in particular. So, providing the battery's working okay and that, you can still save it to it. Yeah, try not to be controversial for the sake of being controversial, but I don't particularly enjoy the Zelda games. I've got Breath of the Wild for the Switch, and I must admit I've played probably about less than 20 hours on it, and it's just not my sort of game. Sorry. I'm not saying it's a bad game, because it's really lovely to look at and it's technologically advanced and pretty impressive, but it's not for me, those. But I didn't trade the 2 because I didn't want it. I just had 3 copies of it, and I thought, I'll get some stuff there. Fighter's Destiny, which is a pretty average game, if I remember correctly, from Ocean. I mean, Ocean at the time, for those of you again of our older generation, remember Ocean from the mid-80s, early mid-80s, with all the cassette games, the 64 and the Spectrum and the Amstrad. By 1997, 98, they were, at the end of their days. It's a shame, really. I didn't realise they were still making games that late. Banjo Kazooie. There we go. Someone's written EB on it. I don't know who did that. yeah, from Rare, who really did make a stack of memorable games for this system. Also, there was another game called Banjo Kazooie. I think that's more the rarer one of the two. If you can get a box version of that, those go for quite a bit of cash. They tried to bring Banjo and Kazooie back as a character a few years back on the Xbox 360, which I haven't played but didn't get particularly well received. It's very much the same sort of engine as Donkey Kong 64, same sort of idea to game for the same software house, but very good game. Lots of humour and stuff in it, and well worth getting. One of those games that you need, as will be this one, which is Diddy Kong Racing. And this is also two games. One, it's sort of a kart racing game and also an adventure game based on the characters from the Donkey Kong country universe. Is there such a thing as universe? Possibly. Anyway, what have we got here? Wrestling game for you, WCW NWO World Tour. It's alright. I think Revenge is a better one. WCW NWO Revenge is a better game than this one. Not bad. You have to have a wrestling game thrown in there. Super Mario 64, which goes without saying. A bit of a void sticker stuck on it. It does work. There's something in there. Yeah, greatest platform gamer of all time. Discuss. You can discuss it if you want. I can talk to you. 1080 Snowboarding. Or 1080 Snowboarding as they call it. I know, 1080 Snowboarding. It's a snowboarding game. It's going to be very good. It's very, 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 very easy to get hold of. So again, one of those games you can pick up cheap games this system for a couple of quid. The good games, the more expensive games, the rare games, the sought after games, are the ones that get really expensive. The box games, really expensive. Quake 64. Just because usually there's one Quake and another one follows afterwards. Quake 2, which is sort of dungeon doom type games. Xtreme Racing, which I think, if I remember serves me correctly, was there an F-Zero game for the 64 for the N64? I can't remember. If there wasn't, this was probably close we got to it. It's really good fun actually. It's a really quick racing game. It's very colourful, very quick, good fun to play. Sort of like, if you like Wipeout, this is the sort of thing that you can pick up for as well. I've got both of those. Road Rash 64, which those of you who remember the Mega Drive original Road Rashes 1, 2 and 3, you're in a motorcycle race, and the idea is you try and beat all the other riders, not only fairly by actually cycling past them, but also using some sort of weapons that you have, like fists and feet and then chains and sticks and all sorts of bits and pieces. From Game Mania. Is Game Mania still going? We don't know. There's a telephone number there. Give it a ring and see if they'll answer it. NBA in the Zone 2000, because basketball. And finally, to complete my collection, you won't be able to see this, but this is a really tatty copy of Goldeneye. You have to have a copy of Goldeneye, don't you? This is sort of taken from the cover, where they've actually done that bit at the beginning where he sort of runs on and shoots that thing and all that bit falls down. So they're sort of like, yeah, really tatty copy of it, but it works, and it's one of the best games on the system. You tried to replicate it on sort of the PlayStation 3 and the Wii. The Wii version is really good. The PlayStation 3 version is really good, but this is the original and still the best. This is the one that used to have people sitting around playing multiplayer full games. It was the first sort of game which sort of brought people together like that. I think that was, sort of spoke about in huge amounts of column inches, and you could talk about it at school and college and work, as we did. It sort of redefined that generation. Some people go back and play it now and say it's not quite as good as they remember it being. That's probably because it's 20 years old and things have sort of moved on from there. It's quite simplistic, but yeah, really good fun. If you played that at the time, you'll know what I'm talking about. So that is my Nintendo 64 collection. I did promise you a little story. And I will very, very quickly tell you that. Many, many years ago, I stumbled across a car boot next to a field that me and my other half were camping in. We'd spent a lovely weekend by the river, and if I remember, it was 2009. England had just beaten about to beat Australia at the Oval to regain the Ashes again. Many happy days, sat by the river there, listening to the radio, playing on my Game Boy Advance, having a copy of Retro Game close to hand, and a box of 20 Marlboro Lights. Oh, those are the days. Anyway, in the morning, the next field was a car boot sale. Lo and behold, we had a quick walk around that, as we always do. Car boot. Back in this is my car boot addiction was sort of running wild, brother. And there was a woman selling an N64 in a box with a couple of joypads, and also a number of games. Now, in those games, I will tell you that Lylat Wars, Ocarina of Time, Donkey Kong 64, Mario 64, Diddy Kong Racing, all 5 of those games in there, with a couple of those other loose ones I've shown you. And she wanted, I think it was 20 quid for it. Now, of course, knowing what I know now, and knowing what I knew at the time, was I knew that, well, Mario, Donkey Kong and Ocarina of Time, if I wanted to buy those loose on their own at the moment, would set me back a tenner each. And they're probably about, 10 to 15 quid now. So I had literally £13 on me. That's all I had. And she said, well, I want 15 for it. I said, look, I've got 13 quid now. I'll even take the box it's in with it and take it away, so you don't have to take it home with you. And she grudgingly accepted my £13. So it's one of those things where you just sort of be in the right place at the right time. And I never forget getting home, and my partner's mother was staying with us at the time, and she happened to sort of say, did you have a nice time? And I walked through the door saying, yep, I've got one of these. And she said, only you could go away for a weekend camping and come back with somebody else's tat. And that's very much what it is. I buy other people's rubbish, but I'm very happy buying other people's rubbish. So that's it. That's the N64 collection. I hope you've really enjoyed that. Seen some good games there. Do the old bits and pieces below with the old writing and comments and things and bits and pieces. Always good to hear from you. Like I said, if you come across me for the first time, please stick around. Be great to have you with us. And if you've been with us before, well, you know what it's all about. There'll be plenty more of this sort of stuff to come. I've got plenty of other systems to get through, plenty of other collections to show off. But that is all I'm going to do for now. Thank you very, very much for watching. We'll see you again very soon. Bye bye.